Ricardo from the GSMA Association. We're going to let you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit more about the session that you were just in now.
Well, my name is Ricardo Tavares. I'm a senior consultant to the GSMA, and I spoke today about the benefits of LTE to Brazil and in the moment that LTE technology will develop in Brazil in the next 2-3 years.
Now, obviously, Brazil is a huge country, and Latin America as a whole presents a massive opportunity for a lot of the vendors here talking about LTE and also 3G. So, why don't you tell me a little bit more about those massive opportunities and challenges that the region is facing?
Well, Brazil had 2 decades of a lot of economic problems in the 80s and 90s. And today, so Brazil is a country transformed with great macroeconomic stability. Brazil passed the last world economic crisis quite well, and Brazil is in a period of economic growth acceleration. And I think the introduction of new technology is something that fits very well with this moment in Brazil. The Brazilian telecom regulator, Anatel, has created the opportunity through refarming of spectrum in 2.5 gigahertz. Brazil has 2 big events coming up, the FIFA World Cup in 2014 and the Olympics in 2016 in the beautiful city of Rio de Janeiro, where we have the privilege to be now. Right? So I think this all momentum, new technology really fits well with this momentum. Brazil always had a lag. GSM took 15 years after it was launched in Europe to come to Brazil. 3G was launched 6 years later, and LTE could be launched 3 years after launch in Sweden and Norway. So I think this is very significant and important for Brazil, and opens the ability for the country also to provide its talent to perfect those technologies.
So Brazil is definitely catching up. Do you think that LTE rollout will be ready for the Olympics and, well, indeed for FIFA World Cup?
Well, I was very involved in the spectrum negotiations for the reform of 2.5, and there was a moment that the Brazilian government really decided to reform it because there were interest groups fighting over it. And the moment was that when they realized that we're going to have over 3 million tourists coming in 2014 for the World Cup and in 2016 for the Olympics, including 70,000 media, journalists of all types of media, and that LTE would be important for those visitors. But it would be also even more important for the Brazilians, because the idea is that those big events, the infrastructure that you are building for those events should have a lasting impact, and nothing better than having LTE. I'm very confident that whoever comes to Brazil in 2014 and 2016 will bring their LTE devices, and they will be able to turn it on.
So we'll be able to live stream from these events, you're telling us.
Exactly.
Hopefully we'll be able to get some live video footage up of Brazil winning the World Cup or something similar.
Hopefully.
Now, tell me a little bit about the specific challenges with the spectrum, because I know that today in a lot of the sessions people have been talking about the headaches that has been causing, especially with the amounts of different frequencies and bands right now.
Well, I think for mobile broadband just eats up a lot of spectrum, and spectrum is important because the efficiency of mobile broadband networks increases as you have bigger chunks. So operators will need more spectrum in general, bigger chunks of it in particular. So we're going to have at least 3 operators with 2 times 20 in 2.5, 2.6 in Brazil. I think that will be very good. But Brazil is a continental country, so Brazil's territory is the same size of continental United States if you exclude Hawaii and some islands. So it is huge. And without the 700 megahertz band in Brazil, it will be very difficult to cover the whole country with broadband. Because most of the access to any broadband will come from mobile broadband. And that's going to be a bigger fight, because the broadcasters in Brazil of open TV, they play an important role in the society. They provide free-to-air, high-quality free-to-air TV, and they wanted to keep the spectrum, but the government at some point will have to make a decision that will balance the interests of the broadcasters, but also that will allow the universalization of broadband access in the country.